How you guys doing? It's Alex Pack with YBP Golf. Finally made it. Let's talk about the transition and downswing. So finally we're getting to transition. You know, a couple key points again I like to see is a good P2 over the hands. Make sure that we're on plane at the top. And here in the transition, a lot of students make a common mistake where their hands tend to shoot out this way. And it's usually generally connected through the lack of separation, meaning that they move their hips and their upper body together in this motion, creating a steep attack angle and over a top swing to the left. What we really want to do at the top of our swing is create separation from our upper torso and our hips, meaning that our lead side of our lower body is going to lead the way while our upper body is looking towards in this direction. When I do this, I create a massive amount of torque, creating a lot of generous power at the bottom, almost like a slingshot motion at the bottom. And this is where we're going to generate good impact position, good attack angle, and a shallow swing. But it all starts with separation. How do we create torque? We create torque through pressure. We got to engage our lead side into the ground, press down so we could actually push back off and extend. You'll notice when I push into the ground, it allows me to extend off the ground, creating a nice amount of leverage onto the golf ball. So what I like to see my students do, I like to teach in a more dynamic way. I love to see kind of the weight shift start initially. I'm pushing into the ground, into my toe right here like Rory. And then this allows me to push off the ground, explode through my shot. Again, golf is changing more into a distance game. I rather see the swing be more dynamic than to be kind of non-engaging and kind of static. A great golfer does three things. They move laterally, they move into the ground, and they rotate. Again, it's all about creating separation. If I could kind of leave my hands here while my lower body separates from my upper torso, I'm going to create more of a torque, and then I could use that kind of internal energy at the bottom and just release everything at the bottom. As you become more shallow, the club face actually becomes more open, and this is why we need to learn how to dynamically get our wrist into more of a flex position, meaning the lead side, and the trail hand is going to be more in the extended position. We want that club face to be pointing at 12 o'clock. I know it looks like a little bit, but even that is considered open, okay? And then once you're open, you got to flip at the bottom, and it's not a great way to hit a golf ball. You want to be more consistent. You want that club face pointing directly at 12 o'clock, and be real with yourself. I think even like 1 degree, 2 degrees open is gonna still lead to more of a handsy flip at the bottom. So it's kind of tricky when we talk about shallowing, because the more shallow we become, the club face actually wants to open up. And then either we have to flip through it, or we gotta change our wrist positions in a better position so the face is square and we could just rotate and hit that golf ball square. If I leave my hands here at the top and then create separation through my lower body and upper torso, you could see that the oblique is kind of stretching out here. The hands become more, the arms become more adducted, gets more pinned against my chest, and the elbow becomes more external. Gotta make sure that club face is square. From here, all I have to do is hold this position, rotate, and hit a golf shot. One of the things that I see a lot of students do when they try to create too much depth, okay, is that the arm gets too adducted to their chest, meaning that once they get to the position about P3 to P4, their arms travel much more than their body rotation, meaning that they'll bring it up here and then their arms will just continue to go up, 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 up. And then you'll see the more my lead arm gets close to my chest, my trail elbow starts pointing this way. And then now we have this elbow that's far back behind us, right? And then what happens when they make their downswing? Their elbow stays behind. When we talk about the slot, that elbow gets much more in front of our trail hip, and that club is slightly inside our hands, okay? Again, if I create more width, that allows my trail elbow to come more externally, get into the slot, and hit a nice golf shot. So again, I don't mind the trail foot coming off the ground a little bit if that helps you rotate, especially if you're a golfer that is maybe a little bit older now, right? Your body doesn't turn as much. You just have to make sure that we get to our lead side and pushing into the ground, and that is a great way to kind of help compensate for your lack of rotation and depth. So based on your flexibility, like if I have a golfer that's a little bit too flexible, I'll ask them to kind of square up their feet a little bit. If you are kind of older and maybe don't have the flexibility of a young kid, I would love to see both those feet kind of flared out. Okay, so great impact position starts with moving the golf ball relative to our chest, meaning that we want our chest to be a little bit more lateral, a little bit more on the lead side, and that actually shifts our golf ball a little bit back relative to our sternum. Notice that I'm here, and then that shifts the golf ball back. And when I do this, that creates that ideal impact position. Do you see that? I'm not even doing anything with my hands. All I have done is just shift my lead side towards the target, and that creates that beautiful impact position that we all are looking for, right? A lot of golfers, what I see is that they try to create this forward shaft lean artificially through their wrist and their hands. And what happens is, as they come into impact, they're holding this position and they end up topping the golf ball a lot. What you want to do is just make sure that we're shifting the golf ball back relative to our sternum through a forward lateral shift. Do you see that? And that's going to create that angle of attack. And also what this allows you to do is kind of extend the golf club towards the target into the ground. So a great impact position would look like a reverse K, meaning that my lead side will post up, my lead leg is extended, my oblique is extended, okay? And then I have a little bit of a tilt and forward shaft lean. Three things that I'm doing at impact position: lateral shift, rotation, and extension. We need to extend both ways. We need to extend off the ground and extend our arms towards the golf ball. So when we do this, these two opposite motion creates that snapping power at the bottom. Notice that my lead side is coming off the ground and my hands are firing and extending at the target, just like that. So great turf interaction would be ball first, then turf. As we come into impact, our low point is gonna be actually in front of the golf ball and into the ground by an inch. The lowest point of our golf club is actually underneath the ground and ahead of the golf ball. So if I have a wedge, the low point is gonna be probably much more down into the ground, whereas if I have maybe a 9-iron or a 5-iron, that low point is gonna be in the ground, but just not as deep. Remember, the club physically needs to be longer for it to go down into the ground. Great golfers who are releasing the club and getting into the same impact position are gonna have a steeper attack angle, much more club speed, and a better low point into the golf shot. So I have track here and I have this line right here. So this is gonna actually simulate a kind of turf interaction. I would say ball first, then the spray. So I'll demonstrate something that would kind of simulate a fairway shot with an iron. And then as you can see, kind of hit a little bit fat, but you could see that my interaction was not that great because I hit a little bit behind the golf ball and that white line disappeared. A great one would look like something like this, where the white spray would disappear post after this white line right here. A lot of golfers, they don't release enough actually. To me, a great release will look something like where the trail hand will be on top of the golf ball impact, almost like you're smothering a person with a small pillow. You'll see that that right hand will be that trail hand will be much more in an extended position. But I have a lot of golfers, they're kind of the opposite way. Their hands are looking up here. And this is because most amateurs want to see that golf ball elevate, and then they'll start releasing more in this pattern. I would love to see a lateral shift, rotation, and extension at impact while the palm of my trail hand is looking down at the golf ball. Ulnar deviation is when my thumb points away from me. Do you see that? Do you see it? This goes into ulnar deviation. Now if I point this thumb towards me, that is radial deviation. Again, if I have too much radial deviation on the way down, radial deviation works in conjunction with extension of the trail wrist. So the more I point my thumb towards me, the more the club opens up. And then this is why a lot of amateurs look very, very like the shaft is too close to their body, okay? This looks like lag, but actually opens up the club face a lot. So if that club is too close to my trail side, that's not a good thing too, because our wrist will be in a cup position. And then what happens? We gotta flip. A lot of my students ask me this question. If I go into ulnar deviation at the top and I do this, am I not casting? Let me show you something from the front view. I'm gonna go cast it ever so slightly, and then as I bring it down, you feel like there's not enough lag. I'm gonna just add a little bit of flexion of my lead wrist. I'm not gonna move anything, I'm just gonna rotate my body, and look at the magic. There is plenty of force shaft lean. Do you see that? So again, I wanna create kind of like a little bit of width. Maybe my club looks like it's casting, but again, if I counteract that move with a little bit of flexion, there is plenty of force shaft lean as I hit the golf shot. So now that we're done with our lesson, we're gonna reiterate what we've learned, okay? We wanna make sure that we have a good lateral shift, rotation, and extension as we come into impact. Again, I would love to see my students be a little bit more dynamic by engaging the ground, and then we extend through rotation and lateral shift, and that we're releasing here at the bottom. If we do all of these things, we should stay on track. All right, guys, we made it to the end. Again, I would love to see you guys like, subscribe, and comment what you'd like to see next.